Welcome back to Blacksheep Barbell Podcast. Today we have LeRoy Walker on the show. He specialized in bench press. He had crazy numbers in incline bench, and now he's an arm wrestler.
Yeah, it's going to be cool. Obviously, this is the first person we've had on that's into arm wrestling, right? So, I mean, it's going to open up conversation for the type of training that goes into that.
Yeah.
Right? Especially in the fitness community, arm wrestling it's getting pretty popular. You see a lot of big names, Larry Wheels, Brian Shaw, all getting into arm wrestling. So it's going to be super cool talking about that.
Yeah, well, welcome to the show, LeRoy.
So what got you into training, man? I know now from what I've seen, it seems like you've been training a lot of arm wrestling lately.
Yeah, it's kind of transition. I started arm wrestling's been kind of the thing lately because it was just a natural progression from strict curl, and strict curl was a natural. It seemed natural at the time, a natural progression from competitive bench press. So they all kind of evolve and morph into another way just to be competitive, as you get older and as stuff breaks down.
So do you still hit a lot of the benching movements still, or are you kind of your main focus is on improving the arm wrestling?
The main focus is improving the arm wrestling. I'll do a lot of the bench stuff. I'll do it's just maintenance work, just recovery or just maintenance, kind of like just maintaining. The competitive side, those days are kind of most likely they're behind me. I think at some point I might get an itch to get back on the platform, but for now I'm just enjoying the journey of arm wrestling and just getting better day by day. It's a totally different type of journey compared to competitive powerlifting, competitive bench press especially.
I know I see a lot of the movements that you do. Like I was seeing one today where you had the kettlebell and you were working on strengthening your wrists.
Yeah,
kind of bringing the kettlebell down and bringing it up. A lot of those unique movements, I mean, are these things you're finding out on your own, or do you pull inspiration from other arm wrestlers?
A little. You know what? That's a good question. A little bit of everything. Some of it, I'll do a lot of research on YouTube, and then I'll follow some very specific people that have just really done some marvelous things as far as grip, and I'll kind of take. It's kind of a mixture of taking what I see work and other people kind of have success, so I don't necessarily have to reinvent the wheel. And then for arm wrestling, I think especially arm wrestling, you have to be really cognizant of what your weaknesses are. I think that can be true of any sport, especially when you get into very sport specific training. But a lot of times people will tend to gravitate towards what they're really good at or what they're dominant at, and just kind of let the rest fall to the wayside. And I've learned to just kind of attack my weaknesses and kind of level everything up. Because if you just stand on your weaknesses, you'll be okay for so long until you run into that dynamic person or that puzzle or an arm wrestling that style that you just don't do very well against. So you have to work on your weaknesses because the thing about arm wrestling is at any level there can be someone who's a lot more experienced or stronger in that specific area, and they can attack and exploit your weaknesses. So you really have to kind of leave no stone unturned when you're going about your training.
I know it's really interesting to see, I mean, obviously being somebody that's not super knowledgeable about arm wrestling, but to see how much is actually within that realm of it, right? Like the training, all these different types of movements that you can do to get better at it and strengthen your wrists. And I mean, it's crazy. Like some of these movements I see you do, I'm like, man, I would have never thought of that. This is its whole training regimen in its own.
It is. I think it's a very fine. It's so cerebral. You wouldn't think so. You think you just get on the table, just aggressively hold hands. But you have to be mindful of, first of all, what your weaknesses are. You have to be mindful and also aware of what your strengths are. So you don't want your strengths to become average, so you have to keep them at a certain level while also finding the optimum rep range and weight and everything to work your other movements. Because here's the thing that's intriguing about arm wrestling is on the surface it looks like a lot of muscular training, but so much of it there's a fine balance between like your tendons and your muscles and your ligaments and how much they can take. And I'm finding the first 2 or 3 years, you probably don't know how to train. And then as you start to learn the technique, you can apply what training is going to have a really good carryover, because there's a huge difference between like when I would bench press or most powerlifters, you'll have, some timings you need off depending on if your body's adapted to volume. You could go like every other day or back to back days with minimal rest, and then um but with arm wrestling and so much of the training, it's so much ligament and tendon, and I'm finding your tendons take so much longer to not just heal, but they take so much longer to get ready to go again heavy. So I'm finding what's working is sub maximal movements every single day, because you need a certain amount of tenacity to get your muscles and tendons to adapt. But then you also have to find the right amount of coverage. So if you do it too hard, it's gonna pay in the form of you're gonna have to take a week or two off from that particular movement. And so with me coming into this at an old age, I'm 47. I think I started when I was 44. There's a lot of stuff that you can learn on the table. Especially when you're younger, you can get away with making a lot of mistakes, and you have so much time of repetition. You're going to get stronger over time. But coming into it as an older person, I don't have that proverbial amount of table time to get used to. So I got to find stuff that's very specific in the gym that will have immediate crossover that I can duplicate and not necessarily do so much on the table, because the table is a lot of wear and tear. And like you go through a hardcore arm practice, your arms kind of demolished for, a couple of days. So you got to weather that storm, and that's going to take about a year or two to get used to.
I noticed that a lot of this is like obviously grip strength, and I noticed on your page you have these things called finger locks. I've never seen these before. What did they do?
You know what? Hold on a second. Let me see if I have. Okay. Now check this out. One of my biggest brand sponsors that I've been with for, I would say, 10 plus years is Lockjaw. So huge shout out to them. The marketing is working because let me see if you can see this. Can you see this?
Yeah, it looks like the ones that go like when you're doing a bench press.
Looks like a collar.
Yeah, so this is a mini collar. These were fabricated to go like if you have personal like 1-inch dumbbells and stuff. And I don't personally have any 1-inch dumbbells or barbells. So we were thinking of a gimmicky marketing way to get eyes on product, but not necessarily sell these like half-inch collars. So I was just in the gym and I was putting them on and stuff like this. So I was like, what? So I needed to train static hold, and then these look like Thanos rings. So I was like, you know what? Just for shits and giggles, I'm going to throw this on and call it finger locks, and just go into this huge rant about
Ethan fell for
how
it.
the fingers in place. And here's the kicker. Most people probably couldn't hold a 125 dumbbell in that static position. So as long as I could pull it off and just stay like super, super strict and tight, obviously people could tell it was filming. Half the people that watch it probably think, you know what, there must be something in those finger locks. The only difference between the finger locks and not finger locks is without it, because it does make it like, here, let me see. When you lock these things on, it kind of does keep your knuckle locked, but you have almost virtually no grip over the barbell. So I just happen to be strong enough to make it look easy, but there's no practical rhyme or reason for calling these finger locks other than it was a marketing stunt.
Ethan was ready to buy some.
I was ready. I was ready to buy some.
Let's start training with the finger
locks.
Because that static hold is probably one of the things I hate. It's a love-hate because it's so tedious, and I wish there was a way to keep my hands like so much more locked on. But shout out to Lockjaw. Hopefully the marketing's working if we're talking about finger locks.
Right, yeah. It's taking off. It's the next big thing.
Yeah.
See, like, I think of myself, like, if I was to, like, hey, I want to start training arm wrestling and I want to start doing some of these movements just to strengthen my wrists or forearms, everything like that, like, what would be your advice to someone? Like, where do you start?
You know what? That's a great question. First and foremost, I think you have to go. There's so many different ways to answer that question. So my particular journey, or where I would advise most people, I think most people would go into it with the I'm trying to figure out how to articulate this. I had a very high competitive advantage, but it was also a disadvantage, and I'll explain that. So what I mean by that is coming into it with a ridiculously strong bench press and I'll just say like a couple world and national records in the curl. A lot of people think arm wrestling, biceps, there must be correlation that must make you'd have a competitive advantage. So in some instances, I had an advantage by being super, super gym strong.
Mhm.
However, if you just rely on that and you don't understand the mechanics of arm wrestling, like what they'll call like the chain, right? You can have the strongest forearms and grip and biceps in the world, but if you can't control the wrist or someone takes your wrist, you can't access any of this. So coming into it, it was an advantage because I was stronger than the average person, but it was a disadvantage because as you see all this, you go up to the table and someone that doesn't have the same chest or shoulders or arm is automatically going to know to attack the hands or fingers. If all
Mhm.
else is equal, like you're unequal, you can attack someone's hands and wrists and fingers. And if you're better in that one area, it doesn't matter. Like, say, for me and you are gripping up, you could bench 225 and I could bench 650. But if you have
Mhm.
better hand and wrist control, and you're stronger in that one area, which is probably the biggest area you need strength in, all of this isn't going to matter. And so I was trained. I was trained when I first started, like not really worry about hand control because everything else was so strong. Because in arm wrestling, you also would have called a strap, where if you guys slip or if two people elect to go to the strap, it makes it so you don't have to worry about your hand not being as advanced to someone else because your hands are tied together. So a lot
Yeah.
of people knew that I had really good strength. So I was coached, oh, just get to the strap, just get to the strap. Don't worry about hand control. And it will get you so far until it doesn't. So I would say for someone that's coming into it with pretty good to average strengths, you're not going to rely on that strength so much as you are. You're gonna end up finding yourself needing to be well versed or well rounded in all the areas. So
Mhm.
to find out what movements you need to really work on as far as the gym, it's good to get on the table with someone who's knowledgeable and they can kind of go through different motions and see and pinpoint what your weaknesses are. And then you can formulate your training from there.
So you basically just got to hop into it and see how you perform and point out those weak spots to teach you, hey, I need to start focusing on this and that.
Yeah, because it's such a sport and such a training wise, it's so much dependent on like where everybody's different is we all literally have different backgrounds and different experiences. Like I could come from the gym with a gym background, and someone else might come from like a plumbing or a rock climber, and they're gonna have such a different, unique set of skills that is so specific and works so great in arm wrestling. They might get away with not having to work on a lot of the stuff that I need to work on. So because everybody's background and athletic background is so different, you really need to go in and kind of see what you're good at, see what you're bad at, and then you can kind of understand what you need to train. Because it'd be you would waste a lot of time if you were just to kind of cookie cutter and say, "Well, I see a lot of people do this, so I'm going to spend all my time doing this." Like, say for example, I'll go back to the plumber. If you're used to working with your hands or a mechanic, those guys have such superior grip strength and wrist rotation strength. There's a lot of stuff that if they were to try to just do it in the gym, they'd actually kind of be wasting their time when they can
Right.
focus on other areas to level up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. When you got into it, did you utilize a coach? Do you use a coach right now?
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things where it's the great thing about arm wrestling is it's kind of like you're kind of taught by the community, kind of the village. Like
Okay.
I have a person I would kind of designate and call my coach, but it's not like he only just coaches or only just drills. He's oversees kind of the team, and he's knowledge. What so what your coach is going to be someone who's knowledgeable enough to help you out with different situations and different opponents. And there's a couple different ways to train. How you would train for a super match is different than how you would train for a tournament. A tournament, you need to be well versed because you don't know who you're gonna get, you don't know who's gonna show up that day, and you might face like several different opponents, and they all might have several different styles. So a lot of people, and I encourage people when you get into the sport, go to tournaments so you can go against a lot of different styles, and then once again find out where you're deficient, what you're strong at. And then it is good to have someone who's highly knowledgeable of all of those things. When you get in, once you start to climb the ranks, you get into what's called a super match. That's kind of a 1v1, and whether it's best of 3 or best of 5. And then that's where it really comes down to having a coach that's knowledgeable to break down your film, break down your opponent's film, and then you can formulate a game plan. And under, just like boxing or any other sport, you watch film, you see what their style is, what if you match up good against certain aspects, and then you kind of come up with a game plan from there.
What does your training routine look like right now? Like your days, like I'm just curious, you know, obviously I know it's much different than just like your typical like gym bro routine, right? So I'm curious, like what does your day-to-day look like when it comes to focusing on arm wrestling?
So I would say my day to day is a lot. You know, that's a good question. My day to day has changed so much from when I just focused really on bench press and stuff like that. Bench press, I wasn't so focused on the cardio and on the endurance part of it. And with that being said, my day to day was kind of set up like my lifestyle was able to coincide with my training. Like I'd wake up, take on clients, kind of do whatever, and then I'd really focus on like from 3 to 4, you know, or from noon on, say, on a Monday, which was always my heavy bench day. Really focus on getting, you know, carbs, protein, all that stuff in, and getting rest, and then, you know, pre-workout, supplements or whatever it may be, and then just making sure I'm really, really focused to get to the gym by like 6 o'clock, start my warm-ups, and then really be in the thick of stuff by like 7, 8 o'clock. If I had to film, you know, wrap it up. So it was about a 3-hour session. With arm wrestling, because I'm also trying to get, the thing I like about arm wrestling is now that I'm older, I have to coincide with like coming down in body weight, making sure my endurance and my cardio is up, something I never focus on during my bench press days, and, you know, being heart healthy and stuff like that. So arm wrestling's worked really good because my weight loss, my endurance journey coincides with the endurance and everything you need in arm wrestling. So now my day will start. I'll usually get up about anywhere from 5:30, 6 a.m. Do all my supplementation, like making sure my hydration's on point, my sodium's on point, my multivitamins, my methylated, doing all that stuff. And then, you know, I'll reply to some emails, get my game plan for the day. Then by the time I hit the gym, I do 20 minutes of fasted cardio. Then I'll do all my weight training, or I call them my everydays, like the tedious stuff that I'll do, like, you know, wrist curls, the wrist, you know, the kettlebell stuff. I'll go through that whole thing, and that's about a 45 minutes to an hour. And then I'll get into kind of like almost like powerlifting. I'll get into one specific. So I'll have one specific power or strength move that I'm going to do for the day, whether it's going to be shoulder press, bicep, or like, you know, strict curl. Kettlebell stuff is now one of my everyday, like what I do it every day, but I also have like a heavy dynamic day, you know, or leg press, squats, deadlifts. I'll have one major lift that I'll focus on after about an hour of day to day. Then I'll go back and finish another 20 minutes of cardio, and then I'll go for recovery, which is super important because you're breaking down the small muscle fibers in your wrist every day. I'll do about 20 minutes of sauna. Go in for 20 minutes, come out for 10, then I'll go back in for another 20. Then I'll break my fast and go home and have my first meal. So that's that. Okay. But that literally, that routine right there is 7 days a week.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah, but
it's a lot of arm training.
Because I was always what I call like functionally fluffy or dad bod-esque. Like I ballooned up to like 385, 390 like about a year ago. And then I was just like, you know what? You don't see a lot of old people walking around, you know, over 40 plus, you know, over 300 pounds. So I was like, you know, I got to get my heart in better shape. Got to start doing some cardio. Just got to lean out because my bench press days were behind me. So there's no need to walk around, you know, 350 plus because it just wasn't conducive to what I was doing. You know, on the arm wrestling table, you gas out. It's fun being the big guy till it's not. And so I made a conscious effort. Like I was going to get down to 330. And so right now, it's been about, I would say that journey started about a year ago, like October, November. And now I'm hovering around 330, 335. Like I'll check my weight every day. Like today I clocked in at 334. But now I don't have any big tournaments or anything coming up till the end of June, so I'm going to try to push it and get down to 320. I try to do it gradually so I don't have to make these big drastic weight cuts, so I can, maintain my endurance and my strength as I slowly go on a progression downwards.
Are you on like a strict diet right now?
I get that question all the time. I would say it's strict, but it's not really a strict diet. It's more just better lifestyle choices. But it's the same as far as my macros. I couldn't tell you what my daily calorie intake is. I just go to I'll go to Icon Meals. They do, you can do. It's a great meal company, meal prep. So I'll do all my custom meals through them. I know I'm getting about 35 to 40 grams of protein in each meal, and then my carbs are usually around 20, 30 grams of carbs and about 10 grams of fats. And I'll just do that 5 to 6 times a day. But I won't eat my first meal till after my first AM session.
So you do your AM session fasted then?
Yeah, I do all my AM. You know what though? But honestly, one of my best rest days, I would train the same way. I would do 2 sessions. I would do an AM session, which I would try to go as heavy as I could, and I would be cognizant that I wasn't carbed up. I wasn't fully, no pre-workout. And then at nighttime, it was a mental challenge because I'm like, I was like, all right, well, I don't want to. Are we allowed to cuss on here or no?
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Okay, so I'm like, motherfucker, you have no excuse. You got pre-workout in, you got your rest, you got your meals, you got your carbs. So there's no reason I would tell myself why I shouldn't hit a PR at night. I was like, be over because I did it for so long. I look at the way AM. I love bench press, so I'm going to the gym doing something I love to do. I'm going to take some time off. And then I'm going to come back at night when there's more people. It's got to be amped. People are going to be watching you. Usually I would do a film session and try to film some crazy shit. And that was my motivation, for so many years. And now with arm wrestling, it's like, it's a lot different. It's different movements. Like the kettlebell stuff, if you're a grip person or if you ever try it, it's impressive. But I'm like 47 and I'm in a gym full of like gym bros, bodybuilders, baddies. They don't give a fuck. They're like, what's this old dude doing with the kettlebells? I'm probably like, if I was to stop and look at someone, I'd probably look like a creeper because I'm doing this like, what the fuck workout is he doing? And I've become that guy I always thought was like, not a creep, but just like, okay, you guys ever go to a commercial gym?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, so, and I'm not knocking commercial gyms. So where I'm going with this is I remember in my bench press days, my younger days, I'd go to the commercial gym and I'm doing like, there's not a lot of powerlifters there, but you can do your bench, your squat, your deadlift, right? It's not too out of the ordinary unless you're just doing like Julius Maddox insane type weight. But then you always see this one-off dude doing like fucking CrossFit shit. I'm like, why don't you just go to a CrossFit? Why? Because you do it like the guy doing the clean and snatch and the one-up kettlebell in a place where you're not supposed to be doing all this stuff. So now I feel like I'm that guy because I'm the guy one-off. Like no one else is on the table, arm wrestling table doing kettlebell or rubber band stuff, and people just kind of look. They don't give me as much shit now because they're like, okay, that makes sense. You're a professional arm wrestler. But before, I was just that one-off guy that was doing like weirdo stuff.
I see you doing like that kettlebell stuff and you're just like taking the dumbbell and just holding it here. I think you call them like risers, I think. How is like training your forearms and grip like that impacted like your other lifts, like simple stuff, bench press or curls?
Oh, sure. It's you know what? It's so funny. I have these Dr. Phil moments like you don't know what you don't know. So like I was having this conversation. I call him the kid. I call anybody at the gym now that's 20 years old. I call him a kid. So I'm at the gym and there's these kids lifting, and I'm telling. So I'll always get people that will come up and ask me, and I'll always invite them to work out or try it. Which is a great pre-workout, by the way. You ever want to get hyped up for a lift? Like this is gonna sound like kind of like Joey Swole might fucking frown upon this, but find someone who's interested, who wants to be strong, but they're not at your level, and invite them to do it and watch them almost like rip their arm, not literally, but like, so like I'll sometimes I'll need like a spot on curl, right? People like, oh, it doesn't look that hard, it's 225 pounds, and I'll just be like, hey, I make it look easy. And then, so I'll do something like, here, let me have you hold it, and let's see how this feels. And so I always like to have my spotters or someone around kind of go through the same moment, because the second I see them struggle, I know it must be hard. And then I feel better about myself. And then I give myself no reason to not do the. I know it feels like some asshole shit, but I kind of like, from all the gym fuckery, I kind of have this chip on my shoulder. Like the other day, someone was saying like, "Oh, it must." I had someone from some old video left a comment, like, "Oh, it must be easy to lift that up because you're just letting 605 rest on your chest." And I'm like, there's a huge difference between a 10-second pause and just resting. If you don't know the difference, it's probably because you've never been under that kind of weight. But it just cracks me up, people who have no concept of what actually takes a lot of like ridiculous strength to do, and they'll just make these asinine comments.
Yeah. That's a problem with the gym community. It's like people just want to say shit all the time. And it's like you talk about a guy. What's your heaviest curl you've ever done?
My heaviest curl, like strict curl, is like 251.
Damn. It's like these guys talking shit probably curl like 30.
I know, that's the thing. It's always people that can't.
Like there's this. I want to say no. I want to say the kid's name is not Logan or something. I'm sure you guys have seen the video with the kid that's like 17-year-old benching 600-700 pounds, but I mean he's a slingshot, but still. So this guy, I found a video of his where now mind you, he was doing like an hour workout session. It was the last one. He was dead fatigued, but the internet doesn't know that. They just see his one rep where he's taking 70 pounds and it looks like he's gonna like totally fold in half. So I'm watching it. I'm like, you know what? This is gonna make a great coaching reel. So I post it, and because at the beginning it says 17 years old, who can curl more than me? And he's literally about to break his back trying to heave ho, like cheat curl this up. And then I write on the video, hey, if he's on my curl program and about, by the time he's 18, he'll curl 200 pounds. I'm literally just trolling people to get him. And then I ask in the comment section, I'm like, hey, tell me what this kid's doing wrong. And there's just people typing all this stuff. But I was just like, you know what? But sure enough, there was 20 people in my inbox asking about, hey, what's your strict curl program like? So yeah, it's funny the way you find to market your personal coaching or personal branding. Another one, when it came to that was and this video did like 1 million views. It was crazy. I was coach. Are you guys familiar or know Sarah Bachman, 8-time world wrestling champion?
I'm not. No.
Okay, she's phenomenal arm wrestler. And she just gets in the strict curl game, and she's already curling like world record rate. So one of the things I'll do at the end of a strict curl, like the biggest thing about strict curl is 90% of the training isn't strict, which blows people's mind. They think all strict curl training should be strict. It's actually just a lot of cheat curls or preacher curls or overload movements. So at the end, I'll always have her do like most people. I will do like a body weight curl for like a single or a double. And it's not strict. It's obviously a cheat curl. So she's like 170 pounds and she's curling like 175, like a cheat rep. And so she's got the huge arc. She's lifting it up. I mean, it's a shit ton of weight, and the form, you would call the form police if you saw it. So on that video, I tagged, why do the form police always have smaller arms than the people who do cheat curls? Dude, this video goes viral. It gets like 1 million views with all these people. That's not how you curl. You can't cheat curl, this, that, and the other. But it's all relative to people's perspective. If you don't know what overload training should be or what a slingshot is or other methodology, then it looks like gym bro science, or it looks like, you're just out there recklessly lifting. But if you do it in a controlled manner every so often, whether it's bouncing it off your chest or cheat reps, as long as it's not ridiculous, it has its place. But most people don't know how to program it in.
Yeah, I feel like that's all those like science-based lift. It's like they're always like super thin guys, and they're like, oh, you need to be doing it this way. And it's like, what do you? I don't think I should be taking advice from you.
It is, I'm a big proponent. Like, and it's funny. Like, you get in these internet battles, like just people. I'm like, you know what? Theory and stuff works so well, but then there's also, have you applied it and have you had like success with it, in real life? And then you'll get the people well, does that mean Bill Belichick should have been a Heisman Trophy winner to be a good coach? No, not necessarily, but results do matter. You know, I mean, I think so more in the lifting community, people are going to be more likely to follow someone who has proven results than someone who just has really strong theories.
You know, going back to what you were saying about the curl program, wasn't he making posts where it's like my 8-week bench program would have prevented that?
Yeah, same. So I was going with the same theory, same logic, and it's like one of those things, like, you know, like there's a lot of truth to it. And if not, and the thing is, if it's, even if there's not all knowledgeable truth to it, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? You're going to get stronger.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of which, though, hey, if you ever do come out with a curl program.
Oh, yeah, no, I do have a curl. Basically, I'll do an intake. I'll put people through a couple movements. We'll talk, and a lot of it is like with anything. When I coach someone on bench press, squat, deadlift, curls, I like to be known as like a player's coach. So it's like I need to be able to see what your mindset is, because we can come out with the greatest plan, but if you don't think it's going to work and you can't buy into it, it's not going to matter.
Yeah.
You know, if you can't be accountable, and the other thing is criticism. I'm not everybody's coach. I'm not the type. I don't like when trainers undertrain someone so they can get prolonged results that they could have got a lot faster, just because they're trying to drag and string someone along for money. I'll tell people like, hey, if we can reach your goal in a month or 2 months, and you don't need to stay on the program, fine, cool. And if you can learn and then pass it on to someone else, that's even better.
Yeah. I never even thought of that. The trainers would do that. Just make it prolonged just so they get more money.
Oh, I could see it. It's a money grab.
Go to a 24-hour or an LA Fitness or a Crunch.
They hound you.
I'm not knocking old ladies on this one, but you'll see the fit trainer with the old lady, and she's doing like 5-pound dumbbells. And then it's like, okay, Gertrude, maybe in 2 weeks we'll get to the 10s. Like, fucking Gertrude could be curling 20s right now. But this jackass wants to keep her on his program because it's easy money. You know what I mean? That's like, I want to get someone results, because here's what happens. Here's the flip side of that to trainers watching this. If you train someone up expeditiously and they follow it and they're putting in the work and they're sticking to the plan, and you come up with a good plan, who do you think's going to go tell 20 people faster? The guy that it took 3 months, or the guy that met his goals in 3 weeks?
Yeah. I don't know. I've seen a lot of commercial gym trainers, and a lot of the training. I mean, I've had some experience in the past where, like, you know, I actually did work for a little bit at a commercial gym as a trainer. It's just like these formulas, right? It's like I don't know if it's like a policy or what, but it's like they want you to follow these things in these templates, and it's like you try to go outside the box. Like, hey, what are you doing? And it same thing when I've gone into commercial gyms, I see them using light weights, basic ass movements, and it's like this is horrible to see.
No, it is. And before, I don't want people to think like, oh, this guy just bashing commercial gym goer. No, it's not that, because there's also the proverbial part that we don't know. Like, you know, is Gertrude, she just have, you know, a stroke? Has she never been in the gym? There's so many what if factors. But then there's also the eye test. You know what? Gertrude's got good skin, good muscle tone. She can be curling 20 fucking pounds. Let's go. Yeah. You know what I mean? But probably why I'm not Gertrude's coach.
Yeah, I don't know if it's because they're like afraid to potentially get a client injured. I honestly, I don't know. I don't know why but it does seem that they're like super soft. And it's like, yeah, same thing. You see these people like, you could be doing so much more.
Yeah. And I really think it comes down to they're just playing it safe. You know what I mean? Especially if, you know, like, because I always say results matter, but what's the end game? If the end game isn't going to be to test out any of the strength and they're not getting on the platform, I don't agree with it. I'm not condoning it, but I can see why they're stretching it out, because they're not under any kind of pressure to have a certain type of metric for the results aren't really measurable. You know what I mean? As long as this person feels happy. You know, and fucking Gertrude might be happy just getting out of the gym, getting out of home and getting away from grandpa. That might be her sole reason for getting into the gym.
I've always hated too. Like, I feel like a lot of them, they're so hung up on, hey, we're going to have this like transformation, or you're going to be working with me for 1, 2, or 3 months, and we're going to get you to where you want to be. rather than, hey, let me educate you and give you the tools so that this is like an everlasting thing. So when our time is done, I'm still going to see you in here. You have a good plan. Like now you have the knowledge to continue this. I've always hated the process. It's like, we're going to get you to where you want to be in 3 months and then I'm done.
Yeah.
Right. And it's
Yeah,
like, now those people are going to probably stop training.
I agree with that philosophy, and I want to make. I feel like you're either creating assets or liabilities. Like
Yeah.
if I can make my gym community one by one stronger, then I got a lot of assets around me. If I'm so I'll say this, like if I'm at the gym and if someone asks me, I won't just go give them unsolicited advice, but I want to see people do it better because it's like sucks to see people not get the results or they're 1 or 2 steps away from having these breakthroughs. And then people say, well, like, why don't you make people sign up for coaching, or why would you just give that away? Especially with competitors. And I'm like, if I come up with a theory or a methodology, and someone can apply it and beat me with my own coaching, then I probably didn't deserve to become a champion or whatever level I was at. So I would encourage people, hey, I want to see someone take my methodology, my quirkiness or whatever some of the things I do are, and actually use them and become better than what I am. I think it's the same goal like I have as a coach, as a lot of people do, like I'll say as men, as like a father. Who doesn't want their child to become better than them? You know what I mean? If you don't,
Right.
that's just kind of weird on your end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
I feel like there's definitely a lot of coaches that are just like, I don't want you to get better than me, so I'm not going to train you like that.
Like the ego kind of slides in and gets in the way.
Yeah.
I can see that for a lot of coaches. But that's also why I didn't take it upon myself to coach until I did everything I could, and then kind of laid it on the line. So I'm like, hey, if you're gonna be better than me, you're gonna be a world fucking champ. Because good luck. If you're gonna strict curl with me, you better do 252 pounds. Bench press, I can't really say that because there are Julius Matt. There's plenty of people that are well over 700 pounds. But being top 10 in the world, I'll still take that.
I wanted to ask you too, like with all the arm training and stuff like that, did you see, I'm assuming you did see like good results physically, like with your arms, arm size, everything like that with all that training?
Yes and no. I would say I've never, and I want to go down this rabbit wormhole, whatever you want to call it. I was never blessed with super, super good genetics to have like these huge bicep peaks. Like I always get, how do you curl so much, but your arms don't look like Arnold? I'm like, well, there's a lot of reasons for that. Short term, because my diet usually for the most part was shit. Genetically, I was never blessed with huge biceps. And then third, I never even started training biceps. I never trained biceps until I started strict curl. And then so during it, did I see some growth? I think I measured my arms. I think the biggest I got up to was like 23. But I can tell now with the arm wrestling stuff, my arms are, as I diet more, they look, more physique shredded, whatever you want to call it. They're definitely a lot denser. And then as far as the strict curl, it's crazy because I think arm wrestling will make you a better strict curler, but strict curler probably doesn't make you a better arm wrestler. It helps, but it's ways away from what you need. But in all the stuff I've learned from wrist and grip, and now when I go to do my strict curl training, so much stronger. And it's crazy. It will almost make me want to flirt with jumping back into a competition. Because I think it was a week ago, I was peaking for an arm wrestling match I just had. And I think every position, you guys can all remember like your PRs on certain lifts. So I remember going into the gym last week and I hit I think it was like a 225 preacher curl for like 6, almost 7 reps. And before, when I was training, I went for the world record. When I was going for the 251, my PR in that lift in the gym was only like 3 reps. So it makes me think like, I could probably, if I focused on strict curl, I could probably get up to like a 260, 265. And I want to flirt with it, but I'm having so much more fun in arm wrestling. There is not a lot of money. There's not a lot of money in powerlifting. There's not a lot of money in strict curl. There is money, however, if you know how to market yourself and you know how to get aligned with the right sponsors. But most of the sponsors that have anything to do with strict curl, I've kind of been there, done that, are maxed out. Arm wrestling's a whole different genre of sponsorship and different kind of endorsement deals. So I'm having a lot of fun with that at the time.
What kind of like originally sparked your interest in the arm wrestling?
You know what? I was doing a lot of stuff with the strict curl, and then as I got closer, to the world record, and I think he's by far the greatest curler of all time, Denis Zaplenkov. Denis Zaplenkov he was known for his world record in strict curl. He was just known for his insane biceps and his tremendous arm strength, as well as being a dominant arm wrestling champion. So the two kind of went hand in hand. The more I would get into strict curl, the more stuff on my feed and content would start showing more and more up about Denis Zaplenkov. And with that it started opening up doors in my eyes to being more knowledgeable of other arm wrestlers. And then I had started following Michael Todd, Monster Todd, out in Arkansas. And I was in Texas at the time. And so I reached out to him and I was like, hey, I wouldn't mind coming, because he was doing some curls and some other stuff. I was like, hey, I know a lot about curls, but I don't know anything about arm wrestling, but it'd be fun to come up there because he's one of the few arm wrestlers that does, like, if you're familiar with armors like him and Devin, there's a lot of world-class arm wrestlers who just either don't care, they're not knowledgeable, or they just have shitty social media skills. Right? No, I'll just come out. I'm not knocking him. I mean, it is what it is.
No, it's true.
Devin Larratt, Levon, and I would say Michael's probably one of the premier as far as really doing a good job of showcasing products, his training, all that stuff on his YouTube and his social media. So it was really cool to reach out to him and to be able to go up there and train. And it really opened my eyes to, like, you could have a fucking 250-pound strict curl, but it doesn't do shit in arm wrestling. Because I'll tell you what, never in my life have you'll shake people's hand and you'll get some people that are like, oh, that guy's got a firm handshake. Or you ever go at the bar, like you ever go to like a Buffalo Wild Wings or something like before a UFC fight, and you'll see like 20 dudes in their little brother's Affliction t-shirt, like back in the day, and you'll be like, and they'll all talk this big fight game, but the one dude you don't want to fuck with has all his fucking ears all cauliflower ear up.
Yeah.
Just know, like, that's a bad dude. He probably spent like 500 fights in his life. But when you grip up with Michael Todd, it's the same feeling. You're like, this guy could fucking just rip off my arm any minute. And I've never really had that humbling experience. Like, I wrestled in college, and there were some people that, they just out of nowhere maybe shoot a double or a single, or they throw you in the head and arm. And when you're like, a heavyweight and someone just manhandles you on the mat, that's one thing. But to grip up with someone and you just feel superior grip strength, and you just know that you have no lane, you have no option other than to just go down gently. It was just very, very intriguing. I was like, you know what? I want to get to that level. And so I started trying. I went back. He gave me some really good advice. He's like, start doing some research, go on Facebook, find some arm wrestling clubs in your area. And that's what I tell everyone. If you want to arm wrestle, it's like Fight Club. You don't know how many people around you arm wrestle till you start going on Facebook, and then all these arm wrestling clubs pop up all over. So I did that. I still had a few lifting and contractual obligations where I had to still do and make content that was suited to lend itself to strict curl and some of the equipment I was using. So after that had wrapped up, that was about two-ish years after first like flirting with arm wrestling, when I was really able to free and clear and just 100% focus on arm wrestling and not have to worry about other contractual obligations to use certain equipment. And now it's just been part of my everyday grind, and I'm full-fledged. It's about 3 years and ready to go full steam.
I see a lot of lifters getting into it now. I mean, I think Larry Wheels has been doing it. Brian Shaw has been getting into it.
Yeah. So yeah, funny. Larry got into it, and Larry just has some other stuff going on, so he kind of stepped away. Brandon Allen has gotten into it, which was crazy because it's one of those things. You have people you compete against in the powerlifting, and then you cross over your arm wrestling, and it's like, oh, here you are too. So when I first got into arm wrestling about a year and a half into it, we'd always joked around about getting a super match. and he was way ahead of me level wise, skill wise, like Brandon Allen. Still a tremendous guy, tremendous athlete. I just was at an event where he had a match. We were actually on the same pay-per-view card. We just had different matches. I think last year at the Olympia, I finally in arm wrestling, you'll grip up with a lot of people, but it's very informal, right? It's called an after pool or a practice session. It's never 100% accurate of how a match is going to go. But at that level, about a year and a half ago, he was still a much higher level. But that's before I was kind of just 100% focused on arm wrestling. And the last 6-7 months, I've really been dialed in, and we actually had a super match in October. At the Olympian, I was able to beat him. It was a right-handed match. And so recently, he's been really dialed in on arm wrestling, and he just got a super match against Brian Shaw. And I think it's going to be an epic match. They're going to be at the Shaw class. I really wanted that match because as far as arm wrestling, styles make matches. So with Brian Shaw, it's the uniqueness of he's got obviously world's strongest man strength, but their matches have to make sense. So he's got to take on someone that has somewhat of a social media following. They have to have a certain level of strength background, but they can't be too far ahead in advanced arm wrestling because that just wouldn't make sense. So there's a very short list of people like a Larry Wheels, a Brandon Allen, Eddie Hall, myself. There's a very short list of people that could actually make some of those matchups happen, and Brandon Allen happened to be one of the people on that list. Hopefully, after their match, hopefully I get the winner because I've already beaten Brandon. So I'm just gonna say I'm gonna keep a close eye on that. Yeah, but there's a lot of powerlifters that have ventured over. Eric Spoto, Mendelson, a lot of bench pressers have crossed over, but not a lot of them stuck with it. Because, like I said, that first year, you kind of like, okay, I'm invested year 2, but by year 3, you either got to love it or it's just like, fuck this. This is taxing on my wrists and elbows.
Would you say it's something people possibly like burn out on quick just because of the fatigue? You kind of get that initial excitement, something new, something I can start training with differently, but then after a few years, you might get a little kind of taxed out on.
There's two things. You know what? It's not really, I'm quick to say that's a really good question. I'm trying to be a good interviewer or interviewee. Brilliant question. No, but in all seriousness, I'll say this. A lot of us that you see cross over, here's the thing people don't talk about. Putting your ego aside and being humbled is a very, very, very hard fucking thing to do. It's extremely hard for me till this day. I fucking hate losing like nobody's business. So here's what the average person doesn't understand. Like when you come from a strength background, and I don't want people like, oh, this guy's cocky, but records and numbers fucking speak for themselves. So when you take a guy like Brandon Allen, Larry Wheels, Scott Mendelson, I'm going over the list of powerlifter like kind of crossovers.
Right.
So there's Larry Wheels, Brandon Allen, Scott Mendelson, Eric Spoto. All of those guys, Spoto and Mendelson, notably benched over 700 pounds. They benched way more than I did. And we're talking like world elite bench pressers, right? Brandon Allen, one of the top 10 powerlifters of all time. Larry Wheels was number 1 in his weight class and still has several records to this day. The one thing we all have in common, not only being just elite level powerlifters, we are also in some time or another like world champions. So you're lying to yourself, and the numbers speak for themselves. It's so hard. And the other thing is, most of us, you tap out. I tapped out of competitive bench press like right around 40, 41. Larry's still in his, I want to say in his 30s. Brandon, I think he's in his 30s, maybe almost 40. But for the most part, most of us over 35 kind of been there, done that with powerlifting, right? So to cross over, going from world champ, and most of us have a pretty decent size or bigger social media. Everything you do, you went from being like internet famous, internet known, at least internet famous as far as the lifting community, right? Everything you do is either noted, people look up to you, it's documented. You're known for being like, you go to a powerlifting meet, you're known as the man, right? You go to
Right.
arm wrestling, the only thing that carries over is the man with this target on your back. If I had a dime for the first year, everybody wants to beat the dog shit out of the strongest guy in the room. Oh, he's the guy with the curl record. He's the guy with the 600 something bench press. Everybody wants to fuck that dude up. And guess what? Everybody fucks that dude up. You know what I mean? So, and it's the same thing. It happened to me, it happened to Spoto, happened to Brandon. I mean, it still happens, even as we got better. I will say this: Larry Wheels got to a very high level before he stopped pulling. Brandon Allen, extremely high level. There's a lot of talk of there. No one knows what the ceiling's going to be for Brian Shaw. Scott Mendelson, prolific arm wrestler, you know. So with that being said, it's like it's hard for a lot of people to keep up with it and to take those L's where the whole world's, because we're just, you know, you're at the top of your career. So when you go from, you paid your dues in your 20, you went to meets, you're paying, you know, sponsorship, all this stuff, where you get to an elite level and now you're in a new sport, a new category, and you're taking L after L after L. A lot of people mentally just can't take that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's extremely hard. Like every time I lose, it's like, fuck, man, it's because and it's a different type of loss, because you go to a powerlifting meet, unless you have an injury, you know what the numbers are. You either hitting a PR or a world record or both. And if you do everything right, and obviously, you know, I'm saying the people on that list know how to do everything right because they're on that list. So you don't go to a lot of meets and you're not used to having to explain what went wrong, because you know, you go to a meet, you have your build up, you have your peak, you have your prep. Everybody pretty much knows for the most part what numbers you're going to hit. You go in, you hit the numbers, you hit a world record, everybody's happy, you're happy, wife's happy, sponsors are happy. It's a win-win for everybody. You go into arm wrestling and it's just like, what happened, you know, or everybody expects you to win because you were so strong. I'm like, it doesn't work that way.
Because it's all like technique, really, right?
It's a lot of technique. Some people, and the other thing is it's almost like you have to train with this no stone unturned mentality, because every time, like when I'm training for a super match, there's days I don't want to, like, I just went into a really good super match against his name Sire Brown, super strong guy. He also happened to be Brian Shaw's training partner. So it's like, and then with social media, it doesn't make it any easier, because I'm seeing this guy work out every other day with Brian Shaw, and they're doing this and they're doing that. I'm like, okay, I got to work hard because this guy's working hard. I know he's probably not taking no days off, so I can't take no days off. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, you've put yourself in a position, although it's from a sport that has nothing to do with arm wrestling, that you have the eyes and the attention on you. So it's a love-hate, because and that's just how it is now. I mean, that's a whole other conversation, but it lends itself to, I always say, look at the Logan and Jake Pauls of the world. Look at the people who are super, like, they have a lot of internet recognition, and so they get a lot of fights, or they get a lot of paydays that a lot of other fighters have resentment towards. You know what I mean? You see it crossover. Look at basketball. Look at football. Look how many players are now getting these $1 million analyst deals. And you have people that have been working at like Fox forever, and they're like, or ESPN, and they're pissed because, you know, Tom Brady comes in and now he's like one of the main co-hosts of. So, and I'll say that's why I don't think social media makes you the end all be all, but I'll definitely say it's gotten, it works in our favor. It got Larry Wheels a lot of super matches very early on in his career. It got Brandon Allen some super matches that, if it would have just been strong guys coming in with no social media, I probably wouldn't have got my first couple pay-per-view cards in arm wrestling if it wasn't for the recognition that came with the social media. So as much as we love it, you also got to take that same, you got to keep that same energy, or, you know, you got to, this, as the kids say, you got to keep wanting that smoke, because when you lose, it's going to be there just like it was there for you to get you that match.
Yeah, just the power of social media, right? And having that, like, that foundation, and people know who you are. And I mean, even you see like a lot of brands, a lot of lifters that come out with their brands compared to somebody that's, you know, has a new page, maybe like 100 followers, and they're trying to come out with a brand compared to like, you know, Larry Wheels drops a brand. Yeah, everybody knows it. Everybody's on it.
Yeah, it is. It's one of those things. Someone who does a really good job talking about that kind of stuff is a really good friend, like Julius Maddox. Like Julius Maddox goes to a meet, and I feel for him, man, because he's, in my opinion, he's gonna be known as he is the greatest bencher of all time. But he can't. It's like he can't. He has his skin has to be so thick because every single time he gets under the bench, everybody expects him to be 800 pounds.
Yeah.
That the pressure that comes with, and I won't say he doesn't welcome it, but you know, the pressure that comes with having that great of a lift and that just being that notably strong is the average person just has no idea of what it's like to constantly, because when you, and I'm sure you guys know how it is, everybody thinks like you bench 500-600 pounds that you walk around 500 or 600 pounds strong all year. And I'm like, it just doesn't work that way. You know, there's so many other factors. Like the other thing I say about Julius that a lot of people don't realize, and this is just in the powerlifting game in general, not a lot of elite lifters have the luxury of lifting, I would say, and having home court advantage. I think almost every world record, I'm almost 99% sure if you were to look it up, every time Julius hit a world record, one, he's breaking his own record, and two, he's never done it in Kentucky. He's never done it in his home state.
Yeah, isn't that's like, that reminds me, it just came to mind about the whole feud between Eddie Hall and Halfthor with the deadlift.
Yeah, you know what? I have a take on that. I see where Eddie is coming from. You know, he did it in competition. He did it in front of a lot of people. But then there's the flip side of it. Like, to the general public, that would be a true statement, right? But it could also be misleading if you understand the sport. And this is taking nothing away from Eddie. Eddie's also have the luxury of making sure majority of the lifts are done sequentially in his favor. And I would say, like, any of us, you don't have to be a world record person or elite, but I'm sure there's a huge difference if you go to the gym and you're having bench press fucking Monday night with the girl you're trying to pick up on, or your girlfriend, or all your friends and your lifting buddies there, and it's a packed house on a Monday, versus you go in a Tuesday afternoon at like powerlifting gym at 11 o'clock, there's no one there. So you can't tell me that in some instances lifting at that Giants crowd is a huge momentum swing for Eddie. The other thing I'll say about this, because there's so much stuff that and this goes into something that I think I saw. I'm not sure how much you guys talked about it, but I know Swimac was a guest, and me and Swimac have this back and forth. So what I'm saying, I'll get into that. A lot of people made something of it that, you know, Thor got to lift at home. Well, let's be honest. The same thing I said about Julius, right? Never lifting in Kentucky. One could argue lifting at Giants is almost lifted at Eddie's. I'm sure you didn't have to travel an hour to get there.
Yeah.
So it's almost like a home gym. And I would almost argue it's almost harder to do it in front of 2 or 3 people with no competition to get you riled up the way Thor did it. So the only comfort Thor had is the familiarity with the setup, the familiarity of the temperature in the room. Because if you ever worked out like in the summertime in some gyms in Texas or California, it is swampy, it's hot, there's no AC. So if you learn to lift in that, going to a meet in that environment doesn't throw you off. But if you're working at a 24-hour crunch and then you go to a commercial WOD that's having a powerlifting meet and you're trying to lift in those type of humid, hot conditions, it's going to throw you off. So Thor probably had the luxury of being able to, no pun intended, but read the room and understand what the environment was going to be like. But he also had no crowd hype, no nothing else going on. And the segue, I would say, to transition to make that point, and the point I would make about conversations I've had with Swimhack, and something that gets tossed around a lot in lifting federation circles and conversations online, is the whole notion that, like, me and Swimhack used to go back and I used to give him talk track like, oh, you did this lift in SPF, or, you know, you did it in this federation versus I did it in the USPA. it's almost the same thing with where I'll say this. I will never fault the lifter for adhering to the climate or the rules of the federation he was in. So if you take your perspective, do I think Thor would have hid from doing that meet if he could have done it on the giant stage or at a World's Strongest Man stage? No, I don't think he would have ran from that challenge. Nor am I going to fault him for having the wherewithal to set it up and do it in COVID times. You know what I mean?
Right.
To make something happen. He did it. And that's the thing people are taking away from. You can't ignore the fact that gyms weren't, for the most part, operational. No one was having big sanctioned meets. So at that time, he was peaked. He was ready to do what he did. He went out there and did it. So, just like if someone goes to a meet and does a 700 bench press and their federation doesn't make them pause at the bottom or hold it at the top or have all the same commands, it's still a valid lift. Now,
Right.
it's almost like splitting hairs, like this lift versus that lift. And I saw people do that to Julius. People had so much to say about the first time he set the world record because, like, when he went to rack it, it almost like he didn't want to go on the rack, and people are like, "Oh, he didn't fully clean it." Well, by the time you get the rack command, you've already completed the lift, and that's like 99% of the federations.
Yeah.
And he didn't care at the time because he's like, "I'm not stopping here. My goal is 750, 775." And if you compare his like latest world records compared to that one, it's people almost forgot about it, but people want to make so much of a big deal about the little intricacies of something in the moment. And I get it because it's a world record, but at this other time, it's like I think people just want to have something to complain about.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
do I think they were the same lifts? Not necessarily, because there is something to be said about, and he did have to do it after a couple events, so there was that amount of fatigue versus that was the only lift for Thor. So it goes back and forth, and what makes it harder is they never did it head to head. So, but it's good for a conversation because here we are talking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes me think too. I mean, obviously I'm nowhere near those guys' level, but I would think just with my own lifts, like having that hype would have been so much better, right? When I look at like, I would have much rather taken on that lift in front of a crowd of people.
Oh,
Right. I
I
mean,
think
it's just
so
the
too.
difference.
I'm not sure if he was asked, but I'm pretty sure if he was given the option, he would have rather done it on the Rogue or the Giant stage than in his own gym. Because I can tell you, it's extremely difficult. It's one of the things that made me a better competition lifter is when I trained, especially for a lot of the stuff I did in Texas. It was almost like you could hear a pin drop in the gym unless the music was on. It was just a very hard environment to get hyped up in. And it's one of those things too. It's like I've never been like how do I say it? I've never been like during football, I don't know, we have this thing called hit drill, or like the beginning of it before practice, or you break a practice and you do all this. I never liked leading that. I was never this big rah like overhyped guy. So that was just never my way to get motivated. So for me, it was always, like you said, it was that extra element that helped me get over the top when I went to a meet, because there's all these eyes, there's people screaming, and you kind of get caught up in the moment. So to me, it was an adrenaline rush. So to me, I think it's much more favorable to lift in front of people when you're on that stage than it is to try to do it in front of one or two people in a quiet setting.
I even think with our own lifts, like even lifting
yeah.
together or with a bunch of friends, I think it's like way easier. Like we've hit a lot of our PRs with
people
with a lot of friends around and support, and it's just a lot easier than just being there by yourself doing it.
Yeah. What kind of gym do you guys train at?
So I have a garage gym. If we do go to a commercial gym setting, because we want to get some cables in or some machines, we have a local gym that's like for veterans, stuff like that. But primarily out of my garage. Story, I've talked about it many times on the podcast. When I was getting out of the Army, I had bought a bunch of equipment for my garage at home. I have like steel plates. I have the Rogue, the calibrated kilo plates, deadlift bar, squat bar, a bunch of Texas power bars, bench press, squat rack, everything. So I try to do most of my work in the garage.
Oh, that's awesome. It's an awesome environment. It is because you can get hyped. You can be your own hype person. You don't have to worry. Like nowadays, it's like heaven forbid you get overhyped or someone wants to film
Yeah.
it, or you're at the
Yeah.
wrong gym and you're fucking intimidating people. Like
Yeah.
that's a whole nother conversation. Like toxic masculinity and being. No one's ever fucking said I lost because I was too strong, but
Yeah,
people
hey, it's
want
true.
you to feel like a fucking loser for being too strong.
Yeah. You see videos of, guys at commercial gyms putting up some crazy numbers on, I don't know, bench, squat, deadlift. They're ripping the smelling salts, getting hype, and then people are recording like, what is this guy on? It's like, man, like, look what he's putting up. Like, dude's strong as hell.
Yeah, I know. I got a lot of those video. I got a lot of people. I'm going to report you to Joey Swold. You did like you're dropping the equipment like that. I'm like, you know what? 99% of the time, it's all my own equipment, and I'm going to drop it any kind of way I please.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it is what. I mean, there's a certain amount of etiquette that you want, but sometimes when you're in, like one of my best gyms that I ever trained at was Big Tech's. It was veteran owned and just people. And I will say this about thank you for you guys' service. I'll say this about the veteran community. You guys fucking get it. You know what I mean? And that's why I'm never. I'll write some I don't know soppy Rocky-esque stuff in the caption, but I'll never be one of those guys that's gonna compare it to like it's like fucking battle. It's like being in war. I'm like, unless you fucking serve, like save all that rah shit because I'm pretty sure the way you act under a bench press versus if you had fucking rounds going over your head, it's going to be a much different experience. So save all that stuff for the people who've actually served and been in some real, been in the shit versus, you're feeling a certain kind of way because you took some fucking red con twice and a couple scoops and tasted the monster. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's funny. That's honestly like where I got a lot of my gym hype from is when I was on deployment, when I was serving and lifting with guys is seeing their intensity, man. Seeing how like worked up they would get over there. And honestly, like prior to that, I would just be like, go to the gym, just kind of like stay quiet, get my workout in. But these guys took it to a whole nother level, like the smelling salts, screaming at each other. And I was like, hey, this seems to work. Like I feel good when I'm in here.
It is. I always took a little bit of chip off. I always got like I don't want to say better vibe, but the mentality of when I trained with a lot of my buddies that were Marines versus like Army guys were kind of like, oh, this is cool. We're going to go and we're going to get it done. Like when I work out with my Marine buddies, and it's kind of something I adopted in my training philosophy. Like the Marines, grunts got the shit of the shit. They had the worst fucking barracks, worst chow, worst fucking like
Everything.
almost the worst everything. Bottom of the barrel. They got everybody's hand-me-downs. So I always adopted that mentality. I'm going to work out in the worst fucking setting on the worst bench with the worst equipment. So when I go to the meet, everything's brand new, shiny. There's no fucking excuses because I always try to put myself in the worst possible position.
Yeah, I was an Army grunt, and that's the thing. Your whole like mentality as a grunt is like, I don't care what's thrown at me. Like we're going through the shit. Like I want the shit. Like that's what it is. Like worst conditions. Like, and you just learn to go through that. And so taking that mindset and applying it to the gym, some people look at it, God, this guy's crazy, fucking psychopath. But it's like, hey, we're just built different, I guess.
Those are so you know what? That's actually why some of my favorite pre-workout, believe it or not, like watching like the Ryan show, and I'm watching these operators talk about their everyday carry and just being in these fucked up situations. You watch that and then it's like, okay, I just gotta go to the gym right now. Cool, let's go.
You brought that home, and then that kind of got me into it and everybody else around us. So it works.
It's just a good feeling, man. I mean, you go into the gym, especially when you got some buddies, and you just let it all out, right? You just get aggressive.
That's how it should be.
Hey, so I'm curious. I know we were talking about, with arm wrestling, a lot of, heavy bench pressers getting into it, and I can't help but think, have you ever talked to Julius about maybe getting into it?
You know what? That's a great question. We've talked about it. You know what? I don't think we've ever formally gripped up because there's just like mutual, at least on mine, and I don't want to put words in his mouth. There's a mutual competitive respect that nobody likes to lose, but sometimes if you get on the arm wrestling table or you do something with a douchebag, you have everything to lose. I would never really try to formally grip up. Because I'll tell you, so quick story. Where I'm going here, quick story. We're at a gym opening, and we're at Larry Wheel's gym opening, and they're like egging him on, to do this. I think it was like 240 or 280-pound dumbbells, and he's warming up with it, and we're handing it to him, and it's so awkward to hand off these Ivanko 200 pounds. It's like it's a team effort. And I was like, and I almost said, you know what? I don't want to be, as much as I want to see him do it, I don't want to be part of the handoff because one wrong move, he's going to tweak something. And I think he did have a slight tweak that day. So with that being said, when it comes to like Julius or other people are highly, highly competitive and still on what I call the competitive circuit, it's hard to try to grip up because if I do something and they get injured, I that guilty feeling would just haunt me. And we're both so competitive. It's one of those things. It's hard to grip up on an arm wrestling table and just be like, hey, dog, let's just see how this feels. Because at the end of the day, someone doesn't want to lose. So, but we've never formally like really gripped up, but he's talked about it a little bit. But I think when it's all said and done, he will probably dabble in some strongman stuff. I don't see the door being shut on arm wrestling, especially with Brian Shaw and Eddie and other people coming into it. And now that where attention goes, money flows. So now that you're going to see more big time powerlifters and strongmen getting into it, I think a lot of companies will start opening up the checkbook and you'll see more money start flowing into arm wrestling. So I could see that being a natural progression for a guy like Julius.
I could see them, kind of paving the way for a lot of younger individuals getting into it too.
Oh, definitely, yeah. But so if he does get into it, I don't think it will take him. And here's the intangible that is so hard for people to quantify, because they think it's all strength, and what they're forgetting is just like you guys said. Even if you aren't hitting like world record numbers, the mental fortitude in the background from being in the service and having that like do or die, you know what I mean? That mentality of just working through some shit is going to be what's going to propel you to being better than the average guy who's going to want to tap out when the going gets tough. You know what I mean? Right. So it's like the thing with the guy, and I'll say this like myself that I'm proud of, the things about the Juliuses, the things about the Brian Shaw, the intangible that you can't measure is heart, grit, and determination. Brian Shaw got to be at the level he is because he has no quit in him. And the same thing with when I went from bench press to strict curl, and now from strict curl to arm wrestling. It's kind of like, you guys seen the movie Pumping Iron?
Yeah.
So there's a scene where they're all, and I love this scene, and I say, if I had to die for every time I've told this to someone, you always get these young guys, and I don't ever try to be overly aggressive or cocky towards newer guys or new people coming up. I want everybody to be able to succeed. But every once in a while, you'll get this guy that will pop off, hey, guess what? In 4 months, I'm drinking milk, taking creatine, eating Flintstone tabs. I'm going to be stronger than you. And then I'll turn over and say, yeah, but I'm not going to stop training. And then I get stronger too. So that's that. Just like when Arnold's like, fuck it. You know what? We could have a month from now, but then in a month, I still get stronger. It's one of those things where the work ethic that got the people to be at that level is not going to dissipate or go away. They're just going to focus it. That's why I'll tell people, and I'm sure you guys, if you have anybody that's ever gone through rehab, addicts make some of the best whatever they want to focus on when they quit focusing on the addiction, because it's not really the addiction doesn't go away. They just focus on something else. And I know that's probably like the most un-PC, like, public relation thing I could say, like, oh, he's advocating, narcotics and, no, I'm not. I'm just saying if you get a guy to kick his dope habit and say focus on something else, he'll be actually pretty good at whatever that something else is. It's not really what do you do to get better? It's what do you start to drop off that's been holding you back.
Just kind of like what you put all your focus and attention into. It's like that thing in front of you, you're not just like doing it like on occasion. It's not, like this is what I do. Like it's got my full attention. This is what I'm focusing on. This is what I'm practicing.
Yeah. it becomes the law of averages too. I think a lot of people like um like above average people hate mediocrity. Mediocrity people will not do good around above average people because their mentalities just don't coincide. And I think you see some of that, like I would say, like especially online or internet, a lot of your hate or criticism is gonna come from the average people. Like, and I'll say this about being a bench specialist or anybody who thinks, and this is my opinion, that thinks specialization isn't the way to go. Um, I think it clearly is because I think at the end of the day, like when we talk about, especially in a sport like powerlifting, um, how many people, or even arm wrestling, because arm wrestling there's a duality. I think powerlifting is probably the biggest sport where the law of averages and the average people, when to criticize people, especially the elites, especially if they specialize. And I think it's just like my whole career, Julius has got it. I know Swim Hack got so many people Swim Hack actually dealt with it in a really good way. He was awesome to see him venture into full power because for the longest people, oh, you're just a bench specialist, you're just this, you're just that. And I'll say this is gonna be PC either. When I was in my younger days and I was running gear and people would talk shit, I was like, let me get this straight. The same trend or D-ball or whatever I'm taking to get my bench to be whatever it is, you think it's just not going to work for my legs when I deadlift or squat? I was like, all right, just, how does that not make sense? I would tell people like, maybe the people of the world are lucky a guy like Julius doesn't squat or deadlifts because he'd shatter those records too. You know what I mean? Yeah. A lot of people have so much problem with specialization, but I think it's just the hate people get from the sub lifters or the people who can't do it at that level. Like I would, and I never try to like go out of my way to clap back at people, but I get this like, oh, it's cool you bench press 650, but what's your deadlift? I'm like, if you are comparing your fucking deadlift, which is your best lift, to my bench, I'm winning.
Yeah,
exactly. You know what I mean? Or people will talk, well, Larry, I'm like, okay, if Larry Wheels is your end-all be-all superhero, if you have to compare me to your number one, that means I'm still top three. So why are you I'm still, if you're comparing me to Larry or nowadays, like the kid, oh, like you only bench press this, Julie, I'm like, hey, if you're comparing me to number one in the world, I'm still in your top five. I'm still winning. Yeah. You know what I mean?
You're still being compared to those top guys.
Exactly. And so it's you just learn to have thick skin. You know what I mean? And it's like the people who are doing it and no matter what discipline you're in, the people doing the high level are never going to come and criticize. Mm-hmm. They're going to be more. They're probably going to be the ones that will give you the most encouragement and actually probably give you the most pointers because they know what it took to get there and they want to see you do as well too.
Yeah, it's always people like they need to find something just to complain about, something to hate on you for. They see you do a big bench, like, well, where's that squat? Or like they're just always doing that.
Yeah, it's crazy, but it just solidifies like obviously you're doing something that's working. What size is that? The kettlebell? Is that the one? Which kind of kettlebell is that?
That's the On It. The monkey one. Monkey,
and we just painted the eyes. So.
Oh my gosh! Now here, let's try something. How heavy is it?
I think it's like 30 pounds.
Is it
30 or 35? Yeah, it's honestly been sitting here for so long.
Okay,
I took it from the garage and put it in here.
One hand.
Can I do what with one hand?
Here, let's see this. Let's see this on air. Turn it over and flip it.
Hold on. Let me turn on my other camera to get it. One second.
What do you want me to try?
1 second.
Let's see if you can do the kettlebell. All right, now just flip it up towards you.
Oh shit.
All right, now do it. That's a 30 pound.
It's like 35, I think.
All right, now just grab it with your right and do the same thing.
Try this with your right hand.
Man, I don't even know.
I don't know. There's no way.
I'll try.
I will try it with your right hand real quick. I'll try it too.
It's like slippery too. That's the problem. Here, you try it. Like so, flipping it with one hand like this towards me, like that. Yeah, no.
No, I'm gonna try it with two hands.
See, and that's crazy, man. Because see, you're doing that with like how heavy of a kettlebell?
I went up to 88.
Oh my god.
Jesus.
The two-handed one, I'm up to 114. See, it's one of those things. Christ. That's what I'm talking about before. If we were working out, I'd have you do it. So now, before you talk shit, you actually understand.
I know. I'm like, holy fuck.
So go ahead and set it down. Now put both elbows on the table and then grip it and just flip it back towards you.
Hold the table over there, Devin, because it's going to flip.
All right,
Okay.
there. Now go ahead. Now just go with your right wrist.
All right. There's no way.
Does the handle have to be like all the way down, or can you lift it up?
Now the handle needs to be down.
Okay, so yeah, you lift it. So you got to keep the handle flat.
No.
Try it with both, but you got to keep the handle like on the table.
Okay. Like that.
Yeah.
Now
Okay.
keep your elbow down and just use your right.
So yeah, so lay it flat. Now try to bring it towards you just with the right hand.
Yeah, I can't do it. I can't do it.
And people will say, "Oh, it's not that." I'm like, I make it look easy. It's probably one of the most insane things I've done, but I do it every day. So now it's like I feel weird if I don't go in there and do it.
Yeah, I mean that's insane. I mean the amount of wrist strength too.
Yeah, it gets a point where you feel like your wrists are gonna snap.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine like how sore, like for somebody that's never done it, and you have that first session just training all like wrists, forearms. Oh my god.
I feel like I was being taught. The more I'm sitting here, this interview's going on, I'm like, at some point, I gotta say something about that kettlebell. It's just screaming.
Yeah. Just watching you the whole time.
Yeah, it's funny because me and another, there's a guy that owns a gym. Shout out to Dave DePew in San Diego. Great arm wrestler, runs a great gym. He was like, because me and him will challenge each other and we'll shout each other out on IG. And he's like, yeah, we got to find some sponsors. And he's like, yeah, but most people just want to give you, like product or whatever. And I'm like, Dave, if you go on Rogue and look at like what the 100, like once you get to the 100 plus and those dumbbells, those things are on like $200-$400. I was like,
Yeah.
I would take for product deal. And that's a lot of things. People don't like, so many people are clueless how to work like sponsorship deals. Everyone thinks it all has to be about money. There's some deals that are worth doing it just for product because their product is so expensive.
What are your thoughts like on with wrist wraps? Like, do you think there's any benefit of kind of, like steering clear from them, just trying to go as much as you can with heavy weight without using wrist wraps?
Yeah, there's a couple different ways that goes down a couple different paths. So in general, I like wrist wraps. I was able to, a little fun fact, I was probably able to design two of the best brands of wrist wraps ever made. Are you guys familiar with Tough Wraps?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, I came up with the original design and the marketing and the logo of the villain wraps. When I was when I was with that company, we designed, did all things. They started off as just little flimsy wraps that were meant for CrossFit. And then the first time I went and benched over 600 pounds, true story, I was at the LA Fit Expo, right? So I'm young, getting powerlifting, starting to get into, Instagram and social media. And so in my mind, I thought this is the way this shit works. I'm like, okay, you hit a 600-pound bench. Not a lot of people out there doing it. Fucking sponsors like 8 Man Strong, Mark, but all these people are going to be ringing your phone like, hey, you want to endorse our product? Dude, my fucking phone was chirping. It was like crickets, nothing.
Yeah.
Till this day, every major sponsorship deal that I had that was worth having, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of companies that will hit you up and DM you, hey, you want to rep our stuff, yada, yada. But the ones that are worth having, 9 out of 10 major sponsors, when I'm talking major, I'm talking like anywhere from $500 to $2,500 a month salary, are all deals that I went after and brokered myself.
Wow.
So at the time, Mark Bell had just dropped the Gangster Raps. Eric Spoto was the main person. And I remember I'm like, fuck, man. And I tried them out. I'm like, Gangster Raps are badass. So at the time, when I was going on the road for 700, I'd hit a couple 600 benches. And he's a great guy. Don't get me wrong. But Mark Bell's like, yeah, I'll send you product. Mark Bell will send you the world, but versus signing you as an athlete. And it didn't make sense at the time, it does now. When I asked him, I was like, hey, what do you think about signing athletes? He's like, if the world already knows who Eric Spoto is, what do I need to sign more athletes for? And when I talked to Eric, true story, I was like, Eric, did you get a badass bonus deal signing, with with gangster raps. Eric's like, no, I just kind of did it because at the time I just wanted, a little bit more name recognition. So, so I was so butt sore about that. And I'm like, if Eric Spoto, the best bencher on the planet at the time, doesn't have a fucking sponsorship deal, then I'm fucked. And then I ended up hitting up the people from Tough Raps. I was like, hey, let's collab and I can help you guys design a better, because they knew nothing about the powerlifting game. They just knew about like the little wraps that they use for CrossFit. Yeah. I was like, hey, let's get together and I can help you guys design a wrap that's going to be better than the gangster wrap. So we came up with the villain wrap and a whole bunch of other stuff. And it was a great relationship till it wasn't. They kind of felt that they didn't need to pay the athletes that were really help pushing the brand. So I was one of the main ones. And so when we were getting signed, it came time to, I'm like, okay, year one, this, year two, that, year three. I'm like, you guys are making $1.5 to $2 million a year off a wrap I help you design. I think you can afford $1,000 a month. And we ended up getting this like little tiff. And then we went to the Arnold. It's the Olympia. Went to the Olympia. And this is after they had signed Julius Maddox. Julius Maddox, he's a phenomenal lifter. He gets a lot of recognition, but I helped kind of get him with Tough Raps a little bit, right? So but once he got there, he blew it up, did amazing things, set world records. And me and him, we wanted to collab on this shirt, and we did. It was awesome, but we just kind of let it fall to the wayside. So we came up with this, we used the McDonald's logo, and then underneath, it was a black shirt with the McDonald's arch, and then underneath it said meal prep, which we thought was diabolically funny because you got two functionally fluffy dad bod 400-pound dudes walking around the fucking Olympia where everybody's cut and shredded and jacked wearing meal prep with by fucking McDonald's. So we thought it was a marketing genius. We had people hit us up left and right to buy it, and it created a huge buzz. I'll never forget. And prior to that, we had pitched it to Jason. He's the owner of Tough Raps. I pitched it to Jason, hey, what do you think about making? Because we were always getting hit up for designs and innovative this and that. I was like, hey, this shirt is going to sell. So he didn't like it. So me and Julius invested our own money, did like a run of like 200 shirts, and went to the Olympia and killed it. We were wearing this. Everybody's asking about it. Well, the buzz was so big, it got back to them. And dude, this guy wasn't having it. He was super butt sore. And he's like, you're a tough athlete and da-da-da-da-da. I'm like, last time I checked, I paid for the whole trip on my own dime. You didn't like the shirt. What's the fucking problem? So me and him ended up splitting ways. We had a heated conversation. Julius wasn't really caught in the middle of it because Julius was still under contract. I wasn't under contract because my dumbass had a handshake agreement. Everything was fine until it wasn't. It ended up being a blessing in disguise because I met with, are you guys familiar with Go Strong? Yeah. So me and Tim, literally after I had a heated conversation, God works in mysterious ways. We ran into each other at the Olympia. I sat down and we were talking. He's like, hey, I'm thinking about formulating some, I have the company Go Strong. They were just coming out with new equipment. And it was like state of the art. It was badass. It was like, as a swim act would call, it was like the Bugatti of gym equipment. Yeah. So me and Tim talked. We sat down. We collaborated on some ideas. I was like, hey, I just helped design this awesome wrist wrap. I can do it again. So we got together. We didn't disclose to the public that I was under contract. Julius was going to be under contract as soon as he got out of his Tough Raps. So Tough Raps thought they had it in the bag and Julius would re-sign for pennies on the dollar, but they had no idea that he was already being courted and had like a contract that was much bigger, way more lucrative than what they were going to offer him. And so I helped design the Reaper, the Ghost, and pretty much all the wraps. They were developed. The thing about the reason the wraps didn't go as far as they did, a couple of reasons, because right before they dropped, COVID hit. And so that whole thing pushed the wraps back like another year. Like I'd helped the Olympia was in October, designed and signed my contract. The wraps were almost officially done around December. But the two things, and this is for people are ever thinking about starting their own like wrap company or anything, you have to, most of the federations, once you submit a wrap, so they can approve it for the federation for use every single year. Well, the cutoff was like January, so it was going to be too late for us to get the submission in. So Tim wasn't in a big hurry to release the wraps. Huge shout out to Tim. Here's something you'll never hear of, and I'm very, very grateful till this day. So COVID hits. I'm under contract, and it was like $2,200 a month for a wrap that wasn't even out on the market yet. And mind you, it was a 3-year contract. So not only was COVID going on, I had this contract for 3 years. And the first year, the wraps weren't even in production. I don't know very few owners, especially in the sports, the powerlifting, strongman, every side of it, that will give someone an endorsement contract and honor it, even though they're not making money on the product they're supposed to be pushing. It was crazy. Till this day, I'm indebted. I owe a huge ton of thanks to Tim. Awesome guy, great businessman. Unfortunately, he just had some personal stuff going on, and he wasn't as passionate about Ghost. Was kind of like a passion project for him. So the company got split. He sold off the rights to the equipment to Rogue, and then the merch went to a different person and unfortunately, Rogue didn't take it upon themselves to sign the athletes, which blew my mind. It blows my mind to this day. Even if it wasn't me, I'm like, how the fuck do you have Thor, you have Julius Maddox, you have Swimac, you have like the greatest, you have like the Avengers of fucking powerlifters, and Rogue doesn't re-sign any of them. And
that's wild.
And it kicks in my mind till this day, except he has his wraps, but I was like, how the fuck does Julius Maddox not have a wrap deal? How does Swimac, how does TD? And it was sad because we all loved him. And none of us pushed back on it, you know what I mean? Because it dissolved. The thing that sucked about from athletes is that whole thing, Ghost dissolved like I think around May, and Tim was cool. He's like, hey, I'm gonna, even though all of our contracts were up in October for renewal and everything going into that year, everyone's like, yeah, we're gonna resign. It's gonna be another 3 years. So at the time, I was like, cool, another 3-year contract at $2,200 a month guaranteed for promoting wraps and just lifting on a fucking incline bench that I do every day. Like, are you serious? That's like some people's whole monthly salary, and I'm getting paid to wear wraps and lift on an incline bench, which was crazy too. The incline bench was like 40. I think it retails for like 46, 4,700. Right. So in the contract it says, we will gift you upon end of the contract. You will be able to keep the whatever piece of equipment. So Julius, they gave a bench. Me, they gave an incline. I think Swimac, I think they gave him a custom bench. And everybody pretty much got their own custom piece of equipment, and that they got to keep. So not only did you get to keep that, you got a contract that was golden for 3 years, plus all the wrist wraps, all the swag. And then at the time, I think if you guys remember, everybody who was anybody was on Team Ghost. It was like the best fucking assembled team of all time. And no, if you ever get a deal, and they'll tell you with any company, they'll tell you you'll do your own custom shit. Do the custom shit. I was in such a hurry just to get the incline because I wanted to show it off, and I was so happy to be under contract. I didn't do a custom. Everybody else, Julius, Swimac got like a blue. Swimac was badass. Me, I just went with traditional black and white because I was too impatient to wait for the custom thing. So, and then so back to the whole the strict curl and all that stuff. I was already in. Like, I saw, Swimac was still going after 700. TD smashed 700 plus in a full power meet. Julius was on his way to like 800 pounds. I'm like, my competitive benching days are done, but I still have this contract. I was like, fuck, I gotta stay, relevant. I can't bench, but I got this incline. I got to do something with it. So I started doing the strict curl. So when you saw my old videos of me doing during COVID, doing all the stuff on the incline, like I was using it as a rack. I was using it as any and everything I could do on the incline to promote Ghost. I was doing it because I want to renew this contract. And then when I had a chance to get into the strict curl, I had a phone call, about a 20-minute conversation with Tim, and he's like, so you want to do the strict curl stuff? I'm like, yeah. I was like, have you ever done it? No. I go, but I think I can break the national record, which is CT Fletcher's record at 225. I was like, you know what? But I don't have a strict curl rack. I go, do you think we could fabricate one? So this is how awesome Ghost was. I had never formally competed in fucking strict curl. He didn't even know what the fuck it was. I had explained to him, yeah, it's this thing where you stand against the wall and you kind of curl, you don't move anything. He's like, oh, there's a rack for that? So I sent him a picture. So he designed, like, not only did Ghost take stuff, Ghost took gym equipment and made it into, like, world-class craftsmanship, and, like, it was like gym equipment on fucking steroids. They like 10x stuff. And you like look at the J Cups, you can have whatever, and then you have Ghost stuff. They make it like top grade, like almost like you'd think this shit was a cross between if a work of art and a transformer had sex and then had like an offspring. That was Ghost equipment.
It's Ghost equipment.
It's Ghost.
So yeah, so he had the trust and the faith in me, and I guess the business savvy to make a fucking rack for a one-off niche sport for someone who never, just on the strength that, yeah, you know what, Tim, I think I'm going to compete and get a world record in this someday. I think I'll get the national record. So I was like, cool. Fabricated it. Shit was like I still have it. I still have it at the gym I'm at now in California. It was like 500. Now, hey, when it comes to moving and transporting that thing, the movers are going to charge you an arm and leg, but it's like a one-off. And then they did like one or two more, and then he just got out of the business. So that's my story about COVID and Go Strong. Until this day, I don't know any companies that are really signing athletes back like Ghost did. So huge shout out to them.
Yeah. Well, thank you, LeRoy, for coming on the show. Before we end it, I just want to give you an opportunity to say something else right before we end, whatever you want to put out there.
I can't wait to. Who else have you had on? I saw you guys had swim. Who else have you had on? Like bench press guys.
Oh, well, we had Bill Gillespie on. He's a big bench press guy. He did this program called Benchuary. He works for Serenix.
Yeah.
He was like our major bench press guy we had on.
Jeremy Hornstra.
Yep, Jeremy Hornstra too.
Okay. See, I wish I should have done my research. I love he and Hornstra. Like, Father, you guys are trying to wrap it up, and I'm just telling more stories.
Yeah, no, you're good, man.
You're good. You're good.
Hornstra was one of the first guys that I had not a beef. It was a beef, but it wasn't a beef. We just had kind of had some words go back and forth. It's cool now, but it was like at the time, Instagram was getting popular, and that's kind of how you had to go if you wanted to make deals. So I was just doing gym fuckery stuff. But I didn't trip off of the negative comments because I knew I put it on the platform I competed. Versus if you watch his old training videos, Jeremy was always very straight-laced. Like, I'm going to do dips, I'm going to do 5x5, and that's all I'm going to show. No personality, no gym fuckery, no nothing. And I get it, but it wasn't good at growing social media or helping you get, like, endorsement deals. So me and him went back and forth a couple of times. I think his wife jumped on one of the things. He's like, oh, da-da-da. I was like, well, maybe if he did more gym fuckery, he'd have more followers. And if he had more followers, he'd have more sponsorship. And at the time, his cap was, I think he came back because he's like, well, doesn't matter. Tough guy. I've bench pressed 650. Where are you at? And I think I was only like at 630 or something at the time. But yeah, Jeremy, there's a lot of old school. There's so many people that were, he's a great product from, Jailhouse Strong. Jailhouse Strong. And that's the guy you guys should have on is Josh Bryant. He's had TD Smash, Julius, Swim Hack, Hoonstra. Almost every prolific bencher of all time has been under the tutelage of Jailhouse. I'd worked with him a couple times. I just didn't stick with it because it was towards the end of my career. But tremendous guy, tremendous coach.
Yeah, we love talking to you guys. Obviously, like some of the guys that you're cool with. We like bringing you guys together, just hearing everybody's story. You should hit up Julius for us. See if he'd be interested.
We'd love to talk to him.
I'll talk to Julius. I think he's out of the country, just getting back. But I'll talk to Julius. But yeah, it's been awesome. Wrapping it up. Tell these. I feel like the old timer because most people come. Well, in a year, I'm going for the all-time record and. I'm like, those days are behind me. I'm up and be able to train.
Yeah, well, it's been a pleasure, man. Obviously, great conversation, and man, keep killing it with the arm wrestling stuff.
I will. Thank you, guys. Next time I'm on, I want to see you guys be able to just annihilate that kettlebell stuff.
Yeah, I'm
We'll
gonna
have to
start
train.
training for it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what I should, or if you guys get a chance, just go watch some of the videos, and then because I think honestly, I think you guys can both crush it. I think I just did a shitty job, like in the moment, coaching you guys how to do it.
Just on the
That's
fly.
right, yeah.
That was the first time we've had anybody try to be interactive. Like, hey,
Yeah. Yeah, that thing hasn't moved at all since we started. So
Awesome. So we knocked the cobwebs off of it. Cool.
Yeah.
Well,
Yes,
it's been a
sir.
pleasure. Thank you guys for having on me. I can't wait till this is the finished products out there. I'll slice it up a million different ways.
All right, great conversation with LeRoy. We got to actually move this kettlebell, and yeah,
Yeah, look at the paint.
look at the paint.
So it's our first time being interactive.
Yeah.
Leroy had us doing some wrist rotations with the kettlebell.
I know. I need to work on them.
Paint on this.
But yeah, the paint. Yeah, I got to
Yeah,
repaint.
that's insane, man. And the amount of weight he's using on these wrist rotations with kettlebells is ridiculous.
I know, and I saw him with some dumbbells that were like 120 or something
Yeah.
crazy. Like that's insane.
Yeah, it's crazy, but it was definitely cool hearing about all the training and kind of seeing how in depth a lot of these athletes take arm wrestling.
Yeah, I know. It's something like I would never think to get into, but I'd be open to it,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Devin. Do you think they work today?
No,
All right. You're right. I know. There's something.
there's nothing.
Little flavor.
Low flavor.
All right. Well, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.
Peace out.
Peace.